And we're streaming live on WURD Facebook page, and we're also streaming live on WURDradio.com. And we're sharing this live feed on our Lecet Philly page, Labor District Council, Lecet, L-E-C-E-T, Philly 5 County page. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Our call-in number is 215-634-8065 or 1-866-361-0900. And we are continuing Women's History Month, where we are speaking and talking to the unforgotten voices and faces of incarceration, the women. We've had 4 great guests on so far this month. Today is no different. We have a phenomenal, exceptional, wise female coming on today. Later on, a couple of minutes or so, I just want to do a couple of intro things. And she is great and phenomenal. I'm excited for you to hear her story. But first, let's do a little bit of the laborers on the move. I have a couple of, information I want to give out to you all. Shout outs to our health and safety team. They are doing it up this week. Our health and safety team, Tracy Goldstein and Ann Lowe and Alan Parham, our administrator, they had a great virtual workshops. It's a 3-part series that they did with information. And I know that although it's COVID, some people are, anticipating on retiring. So what they did was they had a 3-part series where they talked about members and their pensions, how it go about retrieving them, when you talk about being married or single, when you want to retire. They talk about the ages, whether you get penalties or not, what's the required ages with the union. They also talked about Social Security and health care. And like I said, although, COVID has thrown like a monkey wrench in some people's plans of maybe 2020 and retiring or 2021, you still need that information. You need information on how to manage your health care, expensive, whether it's Medicare or you have your benefit care that extends, and also how to invest your money. Because they also spoke about the importance of the annuity money that our members, I'm so proud that they receive annuity money and ways to invest that. During COVID, like I said, it's been challenging. And for people who want to retire, folks, you really need this information. And a lot of people, you work for companies, you work for unions, and you really don't know how the paperwork, how it works, when you can receive it, what ages you receive your pension. When you sign up for anything, you sign it one time and you're just happy you have a good benefit, but you don't inquire throughout the year. So what Health and Safety Fund did was they said, well, let's come together and have these virtual workshops. And they have been successful. They've been doing them all week. So I'm really proud of the success and people who've been really tuning into their virtual workshops. If you've missed it, please go to myldcbenefits.com where they have information on there that you can retrieve about your pension benefits if you're listening members and retiring and your annuity. Also, you can call them, the benefits funds, at 215-236-6700. But I want to let you know, too, that they're also having tomorrow, Saturday, from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. They're hosting part 1 of a 2 series of biometric screening awareness shop. And what that is it's just knowing your numbers. During this time of COVID, again, a lot of people haven't gone to the doctors like we're supposed to, haven't had your, screenings, your blood pressure, your glucose, your cholesterol, even your BMI. Screenings, and those are important because those numbers really help out, start identifying core, issues or acute issues that you may have within your health. So what happens is they are having this virtual part where people can get on board, they can understand the importance rather of knowing their numbers because it's very important, and also, come to terms with what your health looks like now. Because we understand that during COVID, a lot of people are indulging more in food. I know I have been, some people have been drinking a little bit more. Statistics show that, the numbers in people, buying alcohol and using alcohol, has risen. So those, will deal with and will hurt your blood pressure and have an impact on your blood pressure and your diabetes. So just be mindful of that. So this class is just a reminder to, whoa, if you've been abusing it a little bit, whether it's food or whether it's alcohol, this class is going to help you, come to grips with maybe I need to step back. I need to reassess myself, and I need to get to the doctors and get to know my numbers. So please, I encourage everyone, not just your health screenings, but make sure you're going to get your physicals and make sure you're getting your, teeth cleaned twice a year. I know with COVID, people are feeling, standoffish, that they don't want to go to the dentist, but you need to go to the dentist. You need to, get your teeth cleaned and get your teeth examined. It's important because, a lot of heart disease come from plaque. And it's just, truth be told, I was just at the dentist yesterday. So I've gone and I've continued to go as soon as they said it was okay. Your dentist, 9 times out of 10, has had the vaccine. So please, I encourage everyone, get your screenings, your physicals. But remember, if you're listening, please tune in tomorrow from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Now the link for the Zoom for members, if you're listening, go to myldcbenefits.com and retrieve the link, the password code, and all the ID information you can for that Zoom meeting. So it's going to be good. They had great, like I said, sessions, workshops this week. Also, if you're listening, folks, and your members out there, and I hope he's listening, happy birthday and shout out to our Labors District Council Business Manager, Ryan Boyer, who was celebrating his 50th birthday this week. And he's excited, and we're excited because, his theme now is being fit at 50. Mr. Boyer has shared on his social media platform and with his loved ones that, he's lost a total of 88 plus pounds, which is a great, great achievement. So we applaud you for that and for staying fit and just encouraging, during COVID, you don't have to go backwards. This is a time where maybe you can go forward and you can take your health a little bit more serious, and you have the time to do it where you can, do the good things that help your body and do things that make your body, hopefully you can be around here a long time with us. So we all appreciate everyone getting help during this time is really important. I also want to talk a little bit real quick before my guests come on, the COVID shot. The COVID shot is available next Thursday at the Leo Core Center from 10 to 4 p.m. if you are interested. Like I said, I've had my vaccine, my first shot. Everybody is different with symptoms. I'm anticipating, I'm looking forward, yes, to next Saturday. I will be receiving my second shot. So I'm anticipating, and I'm happy about that. But I literally, as I'm sitting here, just received a text message as a Labor's Local 332 member. And I received a text that says that, and a letter from the Philadelphia Health Department. So it says that if you are a Labor's Local 332 member, that you can go down today at the Convention Center until 6 p.m. and receive your one Johnson & Johnson vaccine shot for anyone 65 or older, or any individual 16 to 64 who has a medical condition. So all you need to do, if you are a Labor's Local 332 member, you would have received this letter. Is a letter, and then it was a text message. So just bring this alert down with you, the letter and this text message, to show that you are a member who is 60, age of 65 and older, or and between the age of 16 and 64, who may have some underlying health conditions. And you can receive your one-shot vaccine doses today by 6 o'clock. So I'm excited about that. I'm glad that they're moving right along in the Philadelphia district. They're also trying to move along in Montgomery County, although it's been a little challenging with all the different websites Montgomery County have had for people to sign on, because so many different townships fall under Montgomery County that they had a couple of glitches. But I think they're fixing them, and hopefully that they can move on to our brothers and sisters out there in Chester County also to get the vaccine, because we need everyone to get vaccinated, to get that bullet, that shield on your chest, literally, to protect you. And although you still can, contract COVID with having the vaccine, but the symptoms are not as detrimental as this is what I'm being told. So with that being said, I'm encouraging folks to please get the shot. It's important. Like I said, we're going to have a lady come on today to talk about her story. Her name is Perez Clover, and she's going to talk about her story of incarceration. She's going to bring awareness to criminal justice, and she's also going to bring awareness when you talk about girls and females who have been incarcerated. She used this term, and I just want to look at my paperwork and see. It was a term that she used that kind of moved me. She said that they were like, warehoused, that the women were like warehouse because it wasn't about, there was no rehabilitation and there were like no real resources that they were giving. And with that being said, and I said, well, Miss Perez, what do you mean warehouse? And she said, well, you know how you just, when things are in a warehouse, you just store them. So when you have the lack of rehabilitation programs and resources in prison, the bodies, the people are just being stored. And that, that thoughts, that process, that way of thinking just stood out with me. And I'm like, wow, when you look at it that way, we really, really, folks, we really need criminal justice reform for our men and our women, for both. And that's why I have been compelled this, History's Women's Month in March to bring a voice, to the unforgotten voices. We've had speakers on, or women on rather, earlier this month. Ann Grice, who happened to be a Labor's Local 332 member, tell her story. Wanye Bishop, she was on from Atlantic City and telling her story. Also, we had Tiffany Volcane, and that was compelling last week, if you were listening, that she actually gave birth to her son, gave birth at 7. She went in a prison at 7.5 months and pregnant, and she actually gave birth and walked us through that whole ordeal of, just feeling lack of respect that some people in the hospital, even the guards, how they treated her while she was in labor. Also, we spoke with Sadia Bagley, who was here in Philadelphia, and she told us, a little bit about her story and her connection with her daughter, and she didn't allow the system to dictate to her how she was not going to be involved in her daughter's life, and she continued to be involved in her daughter's life, how she wrote letters to her, daughter's school to introduce herself from prison and allow her, and let the teachers and the principals know that I am incarcerated. However, I am present in my daughter's life. And I just think that these stories are a good way to like bring voices to the situation and bring awareness. Like I said, we know that, and we talk about a lot of times how men go to prison, but we don't emphasize and talk about the stories of the women and what they're put through, and how a high percentage of the women, they are the, a backbone to the household. And with that being said, I'm going to introduce again our guest that's here, Miss Perez Clover. Hello, Miss Perez. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for opening up space for me to share my story. I appreciate you.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm so excited to talk to you. And I wanted you to come on a little bit before the commercial break. We have about 4 minutes before the commercial break. But, I want to talk about your white collar, crime that you were, found guilty of in a sense, but guilty in a sense because you didn't know a lot of things that was brought to your attention during this whole process. Right, Ms. Perez?
Well, yes, I was guilty of a lot of the things, but some of the things I was not guilty of. So yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So we want to set this record straight. And I also want to, like I said, thank you for having the courage to come on and tell your story. I want to start off a little bit about exactly when you say white collar, the paperwork in a sense. What does that mean? What were you doing? What type of business did you have to consider a white collar crime?
Okay, so white collar crime deals with, on the federal level, deals with any type of case that has to do with money and paperwork. So, for example, my case was an case, immigration fraud. I had immigration business that I used to do paperwork for people that weren't in the country legally. So I filed the immigration paperwork on behalf of my clients, and some of them were fraudulent. and I was arrested for that and found guilty and sentenced to federal prison for 10 years.
So, found guilty for processing immigration
Paperwork.
applications,
Yes.
right? Right, applications,
Yes.
right? And those applications, they found you guilty because of the fact that there was a form, right, or a notarized form that was supposed to be attached to the application, right?
So let me just give you a quick background about. So in 1980, there was a program, this amnesty program, two amnesty programs, the CFS program and the LULAC program that came out. Immigration, which was at that time the U.S. Citizen and ICS, Immigration and Citizenship Center, they allocated 500 green cards for folks that came into the country in the 80s but did not come in legally. So when they allocated the 500 green cards, it wasn't made public that it was only 500 green cards that was being allocated. So immigration had an influx of folks applying for the green card because they needed to legalize themselves. And since they were not able to deliver, that amount of green cards, they closed the program. A lot of folks lost their money. Some only received a work permit which allowed them to work, but that work permit expires within a year, so they weren't able to renew it. There was a class action lawsuit against immigration, and the people that actually sued, they won, and immigration was forced to either refund the money or reopen back up that amnesty program. So they did in 2004. And that's when I got in. So, I have people come into my office because that's what I do. And we fill out the application for them. Some came in with their applications already filled out, but, just did not want their address on the application because of fear of just being deported. So we submit the application on behalf of the clients, and they weren't getting anything from that. So they assumed that immigration was doing the same thing that they did in the first amnesty program. Well, immigration did not take the blame for that. They said that it was the preparers or the attorneys that were submitting fraudulent applications. So the investigation ensued, and at that time when I was arrested, we had 65 other people that I know of that was arrested also. Once I was found guilty, I don't know how many other individuals were arrested, but I know at that time when I was arrested, it was 65 people that was arrested. And we were always arrested for submitting fraudulent application on behalf of our clients.
Now hold that thought, Ms. Perez, because we're going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back,
okay,
you can come back to that point, okay? We'll be right back. Thank you so much. And we'll be right back, listeners, with more Labor's Live.
Hi, it's me, Gia Peppers. Tune in to More Than That with me live this weekend or catch the show wherever you listen to podcasts. This week, I'm talking to Kenya Barris, creator of Blackish and co-writer of the new Coming to America, as well as Judge Lynn Toller, television icon, author, and advocate. More Than That is brought to you by Bounty, Charmin, and Puffs. Visit png.com for more on their commitment to positive change. So I wanted to talk to you about how you grew up. What was your actual family structure like?
For the most part, growing up I felt like a very common Black experience. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we weren't rich. I don't think we were destitute in any way. But like the community, we all had the same. And I didn't really realize how much we didn't have until we moved and into a more integrated community. When I was like, oh, people's knives and forks match, you know what I'm saying? And like plates match, like, they, little things like that I see. But I was constantly surrounded, what I felt like, with definitely turmoil between my parents when they were divorcing and things like that. But in general, I felt a lot of love in my community, and I felt a lot of love in my family.
My mother was an emotional genius. She can go in a room and not say anything, and she could tell you where everybody is emotionally when you leave. And she taught me specifically, running your emotions is something you need to do as an independent study. And she taught me how to feel in a manner that did not allow my own instability and the instability of my environment to send me in a direction that I could have flown off the world. I just could have. And she was so intuitive that it didn't happen. And she raised my sister, who is very calm and assured and all that, completely differently. Everything she told me, she told Kathy the opposite, because she knew who her girls were.
Okay, hers new fire potato chips and cheese curls. They are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But you know, it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Hers Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Hers.
Enterprise Exterminators, located 4943 Wayne Avenue, specializing in lantern flies, termites, bed bugs, fleas, mice, and roaches. Do-it-yourself kits are available. Call now, 215-849-7070.
Hi, this is retired Judge Thomasine Tynes, inviting you to tune in this Sunday at 4 p.m. with the Judge and Jetty Show with attorney Jetty Newkirk. Learn about a lot of things you may just not know.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. WURD TV. Black Talk Media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Welcome back to More Labors Live, where we have Miss Perez Clover, and she's talking about a white-collar crime that she was found guilty, but doesn't mean that she was guilty. And she's explaining to us the fact how even though, you know, she went through the system, you didn't control the paperwork, though, right, Ms. Perez, in the sense you couldn't assess what application, what might have been fraudulent or not. They didn't give you that authority ahead of time, right?
No, they didn't. It's up to immigration to determine which application is fraud or not. Because I may suspect that something is fraud, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's fraud. So I had a right to submit whatever my client gives to me, and that's exactly what I did.
And so they made you guys the fall guy anyway?
Absolutely, yes.
So tell the listeners how many years that you served as the first-time offender, really not having any control of the situation when it came to what, you know, applications you could identify, you couldn't identify. Tell about the time that you were sentenced.
So I went to trial with my case because, as I said earlier, there were things that I was guilty of, yes, and there were things that I was not guilty of. And I was not going to plead to something that I did not do. So I went to trial with my case and was found guilty to 10 years in federal prison. Now, I can say that at the time of my trial, I really was not 100% available. And I said available because I meant mentally available to defend, to help in my defense, only because shortly before my trial, my son was killed. My oldest son was killed while attending a birthday party, and I was just emotionally drained.
Right.
But, you know, they refused to give me another date as far as rescheduling my trial date. So I had to go to trial. And immediately, as I said, once I was found guilty, I was remanded, and I was sent to Brooklyn detention facility. I waited there for 13 months, I would say, 13 months before I was actually sentenced. And once I was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison.
Well, what did your lawyer say? I mean, 10 years seems so extreme. So how do they calculate or they get to 10 years for a first offender that, you know, submitted paperwork that she had no control of what information was on there, and they didn't give you the authority to say, well, if this appears to be, you know, untruth or doesn't look right, to put it to the side or don't submit it. So how do you get 10 years out of that?
So with the federal, unlike the federal, I should say, the U.S. federal sentence guideline is what they use to really calculate the amount of sentences that's given out to anyone that has that is convicted of a federal crime. So the guideline was first adopted in 1987. Before that, it was mostly up to each individual judge to decide how to sentence someone convicted of a federal crime. So the federal guideline basically takes two primary factors into consideration. Number one, the severity of the crime, and number two, the criminal history of the person. So there are 43 offense levels in the guideline. The higher the level, the more severe the sentence is, because it's considered to be a severe crime, and the longer, as I said, the sentence is. For example, if the guideline suggests that someone convicted of level 1 offense, that person would usually receive between 0 to 6 months. But someone convicted of a level 43 offense, as I said, which is really the highest, that person would receive a longer sentence. In addition to that, there's a point that's given for each prior conviction. So you have point 1 is given for each prior conviction resulting in someone spending less than 60 days. Then you have point 2, which are given to each prior conviction resulting in a sentence between 60 days and 13 months. And then you have point 3, which are given to for each prior conviction that resulted in a sentence greater than 13 months. So none of those factors affected me because I never served any time in prison before. So this was basically my first time. So let's talk about basically the sentencing table. So then we have Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3. And those are basically what I was talking about as far as how the points are given out. So my level was a Category 1 because I had never served any time in prison. My offense level was 28, which is basically 78 to 97 months in prison. I received 97 months plus an additional 24 months because I was also charged for identity theft. And that's one of the reasons why I decided that I wanted to go to trial because I wanted to fight that. So here's how they're looking at identity theft. They're saying that this has nothing to do with credit cards, me using someone's credit card. This has nothing to do with me using anyone's identification. What it deals with is me. They're saying that I took the information from the clients or I used the client's information and fill out the application without getting permission from the clients to do so. So that's considered like I stole their information and put it on the application to submit it to immigration.
But did you do that?
No, how?
Exactly.
They would have to give me the information. How would I know something like that? Right?
Exactly.
I would not know, and it wouldn't even make sense for me to submit an application to immigration on behalf of someone if
you wrote it.
It was not given permission. It would not benefit me. Right? There's no reason why I would do something like that. So that's where that's one of the reasons why, as I said, that I really wanted to go to the trial. And one of the things that the jurors did ask was there any identification involved in this? And they said no, because there really wasn't any identification. They just said it's that I used the information and filled out the application and submitted for my clients. So that 24 months as identity theft, that gives me a mandatory 24 months. So you have the 24 months that's added to the 97 months. So with every white-collar case, they start off with a base level point. So the base level point that's for overall any white-collar crime is 8 points. And now they're saying that all the applications that I submit to immigration, I receive over 400,000, right? So
400,000 applications?
No, $400,000. That's what they said I received.
$400,000 that you received. I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay. So which I didn't, but that's what they said I received because they're also adding the fees that was submitted to immigration, which wasn't given. It was submitted to immigration. They're adding every single thing that's inside in it. And even they went through all 65 applications that I submitted, whether or not those applications were fraudulent or not, they still added them in to come up with a base level, not a base level, to come up with a point level for the amount of money involved. So my point level was 14, or for the 4. So the 4 goes from $400,000 to $1 million, right? So if I made less than $400,000, the base level would have been 12. Because they said I made $400,000, the base level was 14. So it's 14 plus the regular point, which is 8 points. That gives you 22 points. No. Plus, I received 2 additional points because that was my business. So I received a leadership point. And then I received 2 additional points for victims. And I received 2 additional points for a vulnerable victim, meaning that my clients came from another country. They did not understand anything about immigration, so I took advantage of them. So the total amount of points is 28, and that gives me a total of 121 months, which is 10 years and 1 month in prison.
So listen, Ms. Perez, did your lawyer explain any of the point system to you, or did you learn this afterwards?
Afterwards. My attorney did not. No, he did not. Did not at all.
Did your attorney at one time ask you about a plea bargain?
No. At one point, I suggested that to him. I wanted to because I was so out of it. Like I said, for my son's death, the only thing that I actually wanted to do was just sleep. I was so tired. I felt like I was in between 2 worlds, the world of the living and the world of the dead, and I just wanted it over with. And I said, initially, as I said, I did not want to take a plea. I just wanted to clear my name off that identity theft. But
to exercise your right,
Yeah, but it came to a point that I was so exhausted from just going back and forth to court, and I realized then that the system was not fair. So, and I knew that I was not going to get a fair trial. Only another thing is just that with the federal court is they have their own jurors. It's not like the state. They have their own jurors. So if they have their own jurors, likelihood of me being found guilty is very high. So my attorney told me it was too late. I couldn't accept the plea, and I had to go to trial. And that's what happened. So I had to go to trial. But later on, I found out that even come down to the last minute, you have the right to change your mind, and you can ask for a plea, and you don't have to go to trial if you don't want to. But I just didn't know, and my family didn't know. This was our first experience with the legal system.
So the lawyer, was he a court-appointed lawyer? Did you find, was he representing other, people who, during this type of case like this with the immigration?
Yes.
And so that's why you...
He was a paid attorney. His name was Xavier Donaldson, and that was my second attorney. The first attorney that I had was Bernard Udell, and we had paid Mr. Udell. It was $50,000 we paid him, and he went to court with me for a while, and then the judge decided that he had to recuse himself from the case because my secretary was testifying against me. She was also arrested and charged with the same charges as me. She decided that she was going to take a plea and work with the government. And when she was arrested, she reached out to me. I told her to reach out to my attorney because I didn't know. I didn't know whether he could represent both of us. He spoke to her and told her that he could not represent her, but he knew someone else that may be able to. That was the only conversation that she had with him. But according to the government, they're saying that she may have told him something else, so he could not represent me, so he had to remove himself. So I ended up losing that money that I paid, and ended up had to hire another attorney for trial, which we had to pay money for that also.
So were there other people who took pleas? The other
It
people
was
that take.
only two people. It was only they arrested me and they arrested my secretary. Those were the only two that they arrested from my office. She took a plea. She was not in the country legally. She had a work permit to work, so she was legal to work. They threatened her to deport her, and she just took a plea and worked with them, and, you know, she testified against it.
She testified against you.
Yeah.
It's the same person who you recommended a lawyer to, not knowing, right?
Yes, the same person that was like a sister to me, the same person that she's my grandson's godmother, the same person that, you know, come to my house, we eat, drink, and everything together. Yeah, that same person.
I'm so sorry. You know, it's just sad because, you know, we were talking, you and I, before, and we were saying how people who have committed, like, these horrific crimes receive 10 years, 7 years. You explained to the person who was involved in the murder of your son, the time that they, you know, were sentenced to compared to the time you were sentenced to, right?
Yeah. It was three of them. One was sentenced to 25 years because he was the one that actually pulled the trigger. The other two, one was sentenced to 13 years and one was sentenced to 7 years. And yeah, when I look at that, you know, I was like, wow, here I'm sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, and I didn't kill anyone. But what I realized going forward while I was in prison, I see how this system is so stacked against black and brown people. And I say this because I came across other people in the same prison that I was at that was charged with the same immigration fraud deriving from the same program, the CSS and LULAC amnesty. They were, you know, white, of course. Some of them received a year and a day, which means that they would only spend 10 months in federal prison. Some received 2 years. And also the money charged on them was some of them was $6 million, and they got that low sentence. But my sentence, I got the highest. And I can say that it's a combination of being the fact that I'm a black person, and also because I exercise my constitutional right by going and to trial.
Right, by going against the federal courts,
Yeah.
the federal system, rather. They look at it as if, you know, you take this plea or you take what we give you, and you know, you want to exercise your right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're going to take a commercial because I want to come back and talk about the good things that has been going on with you, with your ministry, and all the beautiful things that you bring and how you help people in your story. But I just wanted to get that out, you know, bring awareness into how they are railroading people with their times, the feds, when they add up your different point systems that you're not even aware of that's going on. And I wanted you to put that out there so people can see and understand that sometimes when they hear all the charges against you and they hear the time, they say, oh, well, she must be guilty. No, it's not. It's a point system that's already calculated, and it's just waiting for you. You even talked about the mail fraud, that you, part of that was mail fraud because you had to actually mail the application. So all of that played a part. All of that. So we're going to stay tight, Ms. Perez, okay? And listeners, we'll be right back with this commercial with more Labors Live. Thank you.
Hey, WURD family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
I would like to play a little tune I just composed not so long ago.
Hey family, do you like hearing the best jazz selections aired by 3 of the best jazz announcers in Philadelphia? Well, tune in to 96.1 FM,
96.1 FM,
and 900 AM, WURD Radio, independent black media for Freedom Sounds of Jazz.
Freedom Sounds of Jazz.
Hear Freedom Sounds of Jazz 10 p.m. Fridays with your hosts in rotation, Aquila, Jonathan Bay, and David Fritz. That's 10 p.m. Friday nights on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM, independent black media.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WordRadio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WordRadio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media. WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at WURD. WURD TV. Black. Talk Media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to Moore's Labors Live. We have a caller, Ms. Perez. I want to take him, George from Center City. Hi, George. How are you?
You know, it's great to hear that you finally got somebody, not say finally you, but somebody who understands the federal system. It's all about failing factors, points, money, and she explained it better than anyone I ever heard explain. The thing is with the government is that if you go to trial, they come up with some ridiculous number. Well, if you go to trial, we want to give you 480 months. They give everybody everything in months to catch them off guard. I don't care how good of an accountant you are. It takes you a long time to realize you got 40 years. You know, and I'm glad to see that she paid a price for her constitutional rights, but she was right. The only mistake she made is that every lawyer is not a federal lawyer. Because you have a law license don't mean you can go into federal court. You're an idiot. Like, you know, most of them, they make them out of idiots. And if you realize it, and she can verify this, most prosecutors are not as good as you think they are because you're only as good as you work. They may go to trial maybe once every 2 or 3 years. And how long is that? I mean, but if you get a lawyer who's constantly going to trial federally, defending people, then he knows, wait a minute, you got to get the scaling factor here. It's about family. But her employees flipped on her, not to say that she did what they say, but they always come to you with this book and say, well, we're kind of confused here, and we need you just to fill in the blanks here. And if you can help us do this, we won't be arresting the wrong people. BS. Keep your mouth shut, get you a good lawyer, and you'll walk out of there. Everybody who has enough heart to fight the government, if your pockets are deep enough and you have the right lawyer, sorry to say, she just had a sorry look. Paid all that money and she just got robbed. But if you have a good federal lawyer and you got enough heart to take them on and roll the dice, you usually win. Like they said, they win 90% of the time. That's because people plead out guilty. Exactly. But if you fight them, sometimes you can't go past the failing factor. You got to count your money. You say, okay, it was a this. You never want to go over 4, get up to a 3 or a 4. You stay between 1 and 2. They only can give you maybe the most 5 years. Right. But I'm proud and I'm very happy that you have this guest on here to explain how they work, what they do. Everybody takes it as a joke. Just like, people be getting indicted. They start doing all these crazy things like community stuff. No, you better go do what you was doing and make all the money you can make because you're going to need every dime of it.
Exactly.
And they care less. It take them 5 or 6 years to try to damn you. Most of the time it's BS because they know the more they go into court with, this is why I never got email. I went to Vince Gilmore's trial, and they tried to jam him. They jammed him on him receiving emails that he never opened. I mean, if you can do that to a person, what can you do to a person that opens email? They had all these people parading there saying, oh, Mr. Gilmore said this and Mr. Gilmore said that. It doesn't matter. They got the ball, the bat, and the glove. All you got to do is try to have a good empire that's reasonable to try to help you along, and that's your lawyer. You know.
Well, thank you,
I'm
George, for
proud of the
listening.
young lady. I'm glad she was on your show. I'm glad she explaining what she explained.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
George, for calling.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Perez?
Yes.
So I want you to get it in before, because we have about maybe 10 minutes or so left. I want you to talk about the Beautiful Heart Ministry that you now have and what your mission is and how you help people, because through all this, something beautiful really came out of it, and that was the Beautiful Heart Ministry that you started when you were in prison, right?
Yes, yes. Well, you know, I always look at it that through pain comes purpose. And, yeah, my ministry was birthed while I was incarcerated. The last 2 years of my incarceration, what I actually saw was really devastating. There was a lot of young girls, women going home, you know, and were coming back to prison, and I just couldn't understand the reasons why they were coming back to prison when I wanted so much to go home. So I started to really, you know, inquire of why they were returning back to prison. And what I found out was really alarming to me, that many of them went home and just did not have any support system. They didn't have the resources, and they were sent to a halfway house. They had to have a cell phone. They had to have clothes, you know, to go on job interviews, and they just did not have those things. And if you don't have those things, they're written up and sent back to prison. So I just wanted to really make a difference when I came home, because I always had a great support system before I went to prison, while I was in prison. And when I came home, I really hit the ground running, started a Beautiful Heart Ministry. And our mission is to improve the quality of life for formerly incarcerated women and girls by providing resources, educational tools, trauma-informed care, spiritual empowerment, workshops, entrepreneurship, and seminars to facilitate change, restore healing, and reduce recidivism. So A Beautiful Heart has been up and running for 2 years, and we just try to be a catalyst for these ladies when they come home. If they need a cell phone, you know, and don't have the money to buy a cell phone, we provide the cell phones for them. We provide clothes for them to go on job interview. We provide toiletries. We try to provide them with all the things that they would need so they can have a successful reentry, so they don't go back to prison. And one of the things that I realized also while incarcerated, that 80%, I should say, of women that come to prison come in with some form of trauma. And I just wanted to make sure that these ladies get to a point in their lives where they are healed. You know, they come into prison with trauma. While in prison, they go through trauma, some strip searches, you know, asking to take off your clothes, bend down and squat and cough, lift your breast, that's trauma. Going into solitary confinement, that's trauma. Hearing that a loved one is deceased over the phone and not being able to go to a funeral, that's trauma. You know, being sick and taken out and going to the hospital and shackled to a bed, you know, that's trauma. Going into prison and then all of a sudden, you know, you start wearing men clothing instead of women clothing, that's trauma. You know, so I just wanted to make sure that that's one of the things that I try to make sure these ladies have is trauma-informed care. I am so strong in that because I believe that once you're healed and you're whole, then you can have a chance to, you know, reclaim some form of normalcy to your life.
And that's why I enjoy talking to you, because you can hear, you know, your energy, you know, and you can hear how you are so compassionate about this cause. And when you talk about criminal justice reform, part of that is, like you said, when people come out, they need to be able to connect. They need to be able to relate. They need to be able to feel human again. because they go through this dehumanizing, trauma, like you said, in prison, and then coming out and you have the weight of your shoulder. And it's small things, not saying small things, but things like a cell phone or clothes for an interview, that'll get you sent back because you're not prepared when you come to the halfway house for the items that you need. So how can someone get in touch with your Beautiful Heart Ministry? Because you're located in New York, right?
Yes, located in New York. So our website is abeutifulheartministry.org. Or we are also on any social media at A Beautiful Heart Ministries. So we do need help. We depend on financial support, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with finance.
Right.
We help women in myriad of ways. So if you have clothing that you need to donate to help these ladies, if you have food, if you have toiletry, anything that you can do. And I always tell people that here's the bottom line, okay? Even if you don't have any of those, the best thing that you can actually bless us with to continue to do our work, help these people, is pray for us. Jeez. Pray for us and know that, this is something that I feel like I was persecuted and I was prosecuted for this work, and for me to continue to do this work, just pray for me and pray for the ladies that when they come home, they can, just be whole and they can move on and just not think about all the trauma that they went through while incarcerated.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. We are out of time, but I'm so glad that I had a chance to, have you on by yourself just to tell your story, talk about your ministry and how you are helping people, trying to change things. And if people you are interested, for those who are listening, who want to donate anything that you have in addition to your prayers, please contact and go to beautifulheartministry.org. Social media, she's on there, Beautiful Heart Ministry. You can contact her, you can DM her, anything, will help these women, help the cause. And Ms. Perez, I just want to thank you so much. This is not the end of us talking and, talking to one another and knowing one another. I just met you, a month ago. So I appreciate you so much for sharing your powerful story and educating us with the federal system and just, federal crime. When you talk about time and the point system, you really did. You educated us, and we appreciate you because knowledge and awareness is power in itself. So thank you so much again for joining me on this show today.
And thank you again for having me. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Have a good weekend. You
too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you, listeners and everyone. This was a great show again. Like I said, our month in March, next Friday, we're going to have Tony Willis, Ardella's House leader in charge of the whole movement with criminal reform and criminal justice reform. We're going to continue these stories of these powerful women. I want to thank you all for joining me again on this Labor's Live show. Shout out again to our business manager, Ryan Boyer, for his wonderful birthday, his fit at 50. And please, if you received the email, about the from the Pennsylvania Health Department, Philadelphia Health Department members, please go down there if you are 65 and older or and 16 to 64 and have any health underlying issues till 6 p.m. today. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Tony Staten. I am out. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, Eric, for everything. We miss you, Troy. Bye, everybody.